chapter 24. It was during his reign that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, invaded the country. Jehoiakim became his puppet, but after 3 years he had had enough and revolted. God dispatched a succession of raiding bands against him: Babylonian, Aramean, Moabite, and Ammonite. The strategy was to destroy Judah. Through the preaching of his servants and prophets, God had said he would do this, and now he was doing it. None of this was by chance. It was God's judgment as he turned his back on Judah because of the enormity of the sins of Manasseh. Manasseh, the killer king who made the Jerusalem streets flow with the innocent blood of his victims. God wasn't about to overlook such crimes. The rest of the life and times of Jehoiakim is written in the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah. Jehoiakim died and was buried with his ancestors. His son, Jehoiakim, became the next king. The threat from Egypt was now over. No more invasions by the king of Egypt. For by this time, the king of Babylon had captured all the land between the brook of Egypt and the Euphrates River, land formerly controlled by the king of Egypt. Jehoiakim of Judah. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he became king. His rule in Jerusalem lasted only 3 months. His mother's name was Nehushta, daughter of Elnathan. She was from Jerusalem. In God's opinion, he was also an evil king, no different from his father. The next thing to happen was that the officers of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, attacked Jerusalem and put it under siege. While his officers were laying siege to the city, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, paid a personal visit, and Jehoiakim, king of Judah, along with his mother, officers, advisors, and government leaders, surrendered. In the 8th year of his reign, Jehoiakim was taken prisoner by the king of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar emptied the treasuries of both the temple of God and the royal palace and confiscated all the gold furnishings that Solomon, king of Israel, had made for the temple of God. This should have been no surprise. God had said it would happen. And then he emptied Jerusalem of people, all its leaders and soldiers, all its craftsmen and artisans. He took them into exile, something like 10,000 of them. The only ones he left were the very poor. He took Jehoiakim into exile to Babylon. With him, he took the king's mother, his wives, his chief officers, the community leaders, anyone who was anybody. In round numbers, 7,000 soldiers, plus another 1,000 or so craftsmen and artisans, all herded off into exile in Babylon. Then, the king of Babylon made Jehoiakim's uncle, Mattaniah, his puppet king, but changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah of Judah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he started out as king. He was king in Jerusalem for 11 years. His mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah. Her hometown was Libnah. As far as God was concerned, Zedekiah was just one more evil king, a carbon copy of Jehoiakim. The source of all this doom to Jerusalem and Judah was God's anger. God turned his back on them as an act of judgment. And then Zedekiah revolted against the king of Babylon. Chapter 25. The revolt dates from the 9th year and 10th month of Zedekiah's reign. Nebuchadnezzar set out for Jerusalem immediately with a full army. He set up camp and sealed off the city by building siege mounds around it. This city was under siege for 19 months, until the 11th year of Zedekiah. By the 4th month of Zedekiah's 11th year, on the 9th day of the month, the famine was so bad that there wasn't so much as a crumb of bread for anyone. Then, there was a breakthrough. At night, under cover of darkness, the entire army escaped through an opening in the wall. It was the gate between the 2 walls above the king's garden. They slipped through the lines of the Babylonians who surrounded the city and headed for the Jordan on the Araba Valley Road. But the Babylonians were in pursuit of the king, and they caught up with him in the plains of Jericho. By then, Zedekiah's army had deserted and was scattered. The Babylonians took Zedekiah prisoner and marched him off to the king of Babylon at Riblah, then tried and sentenced him on the spot. Zedekiah's sons were executed right before his eyes. The summary murder of his sons was the last thing he saw, for they then blinded him. Securely handcuffed, he was hauled off to Babylon. In the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, on the 7th day of the 5th month, Nebuzaradan, the king of Babylon's chief deputy, arrived in Jerusalem. He burned the temple of God to the ground, went on to the royal palace, and then finished off the city, burned the whole place down. He put the Babylonian troops he had with him to work knocking down the city walls. Finally, he rounded up everyone left in the city, including those who had earlier deserted to the king of Babylon, and took them off into exile. He left a few poor dirt farmers behind to tend the vineyards and what was left of the fields. The Babylonians broke up the bronze pillars, the bronze washstands, and the huge bronze basin, the sea, that were in the temple of God, and hauled the bronze off to Babylon. They also took the various bronze-crafted liturgical accessories used in the services of temple worship, as well as the gold and silver censers and sprinkling bowls. The king's deputy didn't miss a thing. He took every scrap of precious metal he could find. The amount of bronze they got from the two pillars, the sea, and all the washstands that Solomon had made for the temple of God was enormous. They couldn't weigh it all. Each pillar stood 27 feet high, plus another 4.5 feet for an ornate capital of bronze filigree and decorative fruit. The king's deputy took a number of special prisoners: Seraiah the chief priest, Zephaniah the associate priest, 3 wardens, the chief remaining army officer, 5 of the king's counselors, the accountant, the chief recruiting officer for the army, and 60 men of standing from among the people. Nebuzaradan, the king's deputy, marched them all off to the king of Babylon at Riblah. And there at Riblah, in the land of Hamath, the king of Babylon killed the lot of them in cold blood. Judah went into exile, orphaned from her land. Regarding the common people who were left behind in Judah, this: Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, appointed Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, as their governor. When veteran army officers among the people heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah, they came to Gedaliah at Mizpah. Among them were Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, Johanan, son of Kiriah, Seraiah, son of Tanhumeth, the Netophathite, Jaazaniah, the son of the Maacathite, and some of their followers. Gedaliah assured the officers and their men, giving them his word: "Don't be afraid of the Babylonian officials. Go back to your farms and families and respect the king of Babylon. Trust me, everything is going to be all right." Sometime later, it was in the 7th month, Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, the son of Elishama, he had royal blood in him, came back with 10 men and killed Gedaliah, the traitor Jews, and the Babylonian officials who were stationed at Mizpah. A bloody massacre. But then, afraid of what the Babylonians would do, they all took off for Egypt, leaders and people, small and great. When Jehoiakim, king of Judah, had been in exile for 37 years, evil Merodach became king in Babylon and let Jehoiakim out of prison. This release took place on the 27th day of the 12th month. The king treated him most courteously and gave him preferential treatment beyond anything experienced by the other political prisoners held in Babylon. Jehoiakim took off his prison garb and for the rest of his life ate his meals in company with the king. The king provided everything he needed to live comfortably.